Hello, beautiful souls. I'm here today to talk to you about vulnerability as I said I would in my last video, and specifically what is at the core of vulnerability and what is the benefit of moving through it. And I found this love note. Years ago, I used to offer weekly love notes to my newsletter list, and I found this one that really speaks well of what I want to talk about today. As it says, as the bud begins to open, as we think about revealing ourselves and who we really are, it brings up this fear of being seen. And I think it's very much a part of our culture to have this fear because, like the question is, will they like what they see? And so many of us have grown up feeling like we need to cover up the truth of who we are, not fully expose ourselves for various reasons. Sometimes we've been taught not to express our feelings because they weren't well received by our parents, so we learn to keep our feelings inside because as children we need to receive love, and if expressing our feelings, which was the case for me, means that you're creating difficulty and challenge, then you soon learn to shut them down. Or for many children, it's, be a big boy, be a big girl, don't cry, like don't feel your feelings. And so it becomes a shameful thing for us to reveal our feelings and to be totally open and honest with people. Or sometimes when we are totally open and honest, we get shut down immediately because the other person can't be present with their feelings. Perhaps they feel like they're responsible for our feelings, and so they become defensive. And then again, we find out that our feelings, perhaps love is taken away when we express our feelings, or we're made wrong when we express our feelings. So it becomes a fear that walks around with us, and this idea of being vulnerable and perhaps expressing a feeling when you've been rejected before for having feelings, it becomes almost as terrifying as a death, because when we're children and we set up these survival patterns, these are based on the fact that as children we know we're dependent on others to care for us, which is our core survival. And so we have to do whatever we can to fit in to pleasing others so that they're going to want to look after us and care for us. And so when we grow up, and maybe it becomes more important to really learn to express what we're feeling or to even know what we're feeling, because often this cover-up story then becomes so deep that, especially for people who have experienced deep trauma, and that trauma gets so deeply buried that they don't even want to remember it, then we don't even know what our feelings are. We become very adept at rising above, which was my case. Oh, I'm not really feeling that, or it doesn't matter if you treat me that way. I'll be the good person and I'll rise above it. So I was very much a martyr without even knowing it in my younger years, thinking that I was being the good person by putting everybody ahead of myself because my feelings weren't worthy of being honored, even to me. I was too afraid of losing love by rocking the boat or expressing my own needs, so I would put everybody's needs ahead of myself. And for example, in my marriage, what that led to was the dissolving of my marriage because I never expressed what my needs were or demanded that my needs be met. And so finally it was just done, it was over, because it didn't happen voluntarily to put me first or have my needs be important. So there's many reasons why it becomes so fearful for us to be vulnerable. And to me, the biggest vulnerability is expressing what we're really feeling, exposing ourselves, just like the bud that's curled up tight. When you think about opening up and people seeing absolutely everything that's inside of you, what we don't realize is that that's the most beautiful aspect of you that you can imagine. It's like a flower in full bloom. It's so beautiful. It just brings us joy and delight. And there is nothing hidden in a flower that's in full bloom. And I believe that we need to walk through our vulnerability in order to really know what it feels like to be the expression of who we are in the world. That's why I say only the blossom can give the answer to whether they will like what they see. We don't really know what people are liking about us. I guess I should say that we don't know whether they like the truth of us, because so many of us don't even show our truth in the world. We don't even show the deepest level of who we are, our most intimate feelings, our deepest convictions, our fears. So what I've discovered for myself, and the reason that I feel that it's so important to talk about going into vulnerability and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable, is for myself, it happened involuntarily when I moved to Vancouver Island in 2016. Within months, I actually just fell apart. Like, I just was in tears. I was looking into the depth of who I am. I was deeply connected to nature, and nature was showing me to look inside. I really had the greatest rebirth of my life within 2 months of moving to this island, because the land here takes you in. And for people such myself who are very sensitive to the land and to the environment, I had no choice but to fall into that. And it was the greatest blessing of my life, because up until that point, as I said, I had always lived rising above, being a Pollyanna, not fully grounded on the earth. And as part of this rebirthing process, I landed solidly on the earth, I would say for the first time since very early in my childhood. And that started a process of really opening up, really going into that raw space, first just feeling what was there and what wanted to be there in the deepest feelings within me, and then digging further into past lives and what was in my history and my lineage that we also bring with us. And it's an opportunity to clear all that lineage so that the forward generations don't have to carry it. And in that process of being so vulnerable and falling apart so that I could be reborn, I was in tears many times. And it's when I decided to move from Roshana back to Jane Warren Campbell, my birth name, because I realized that Roshana, which is my spirit name, was really not grounded on the earth. And in order to fully manifest and bring everything that we are into this earth and actually create in this earthly realm, we have to be fully anchored in here. And even in ascension, it's not about leaving. It's about being fully present here and evolving through what it's like to live in 3D, evolving beyond that, creating the life that we desire while still being here on this physical earth. And this is part of what I realized in this process. And then after that, I got to the point where, especially in 2016, 2017, with the eclipses that we were having that were really pushing all the density of the past to the surface, wanting to be cleared, which is what we're also seeing on the earth at this time. What happened for me was I would feel this churning in my solar plexus, which I know is connected to the subconscious. And I got to the point where I would say, okay, I know something's coming. And here I am yawning, where for me is a way of clearing. It's how I clear in the freedom release technique. It comes up through yawning. So something's moving through just as I'm talking about this. I would say, okay, let's go in and look. And I cleared past lives that were so dense and dark and horrific. I mean, like my body, being chopped to bits, seriously, that were so horrendous that I had to breathe using the breath that I learned when I was delivering my babies to even get through it, to witness it. But I knew that it needed to come up and be released, witnessed and released, because on the other side of it, I wouldn't be carrying that density and those old patterns anymore. And this is a part of why allowing ourselves to become vulnerable is so important, because in these times that we're in this great opportunity of evolving into the light and becoming the highest aspect of who we are, and discovering what it means to live in freedom, which I see as the blossom that has the courage to open and be all that we are, and know that there's nothing to hide, that we are perfection. In order to get to that, we have to be willing to go in and get in touch with all those feelings that we're so afraid of seeing, that we're so afraid of showing, and discover all the shadow that is covering up the beautiful light that we are. Think of the shadow as the leaves that are holding the bud in tight. Those leaves have to loosen up and be willing to let go before the blossom is ever going to appear. And when we are in fear, fear of being judged, fear of being seen, fear of being rejected, fear of being ridiculed, whatever it is that keeps those walls up, where we feel like we have to be so strong and we don't dare be vulnerable, we don't dare let down the walls, as long as we're walking in that energy, we're never going to be free, and we're never going to be at a place of inner stillness and peace, because the peace only comes from knowing that when you fully expose yourself and become that beautiful blossom in the world, it's all about you discovering how beautiful you are. Suddenly it doesn't even matter what other people think, because you are being true and honest to yourself by being your full radiant self, and you come to know that that is nothing less than perfection. And I feel like the hardship and the shame really is in covering up the great light that we are. And it's not until we move through that and step into the fear that we recognize that the inner beauty, the inner light that we are, is the freedom that we've sought all our lives, and is the place of inner peace, because we come to know the radiance that we are. Strength is only required to defend what we are so afraid of. And what we are so afraid of is within ourselves. It is that shadow that has been cast upon us by society and by our family lineage and by the patterns that we inherited and that were placed upon us. And so by being vulnerable and having the courage to say, okay, I'm going to go in, I'm going to face my deepest fear. I'm going to look at everything I'm afraid of showing the world and really go in and feel it. Then we realize that the greatest fear was walking into the fear itself. It's like peering down a dark hole and you can't see anything in the hole. The greatest courage that's required is jumping into the hole and not knowing whether you'll hit bottom, if there is a bottom, what you'll find at the bottom. But once you take that leap and you jump into that dark hole and you realize that you can get through it, and on the other side you feel lighter, then the more that you do that, the more you come to realize that really the only fear was the fear of stepping into that void, stepping into that unknown. The other side of it, even the process of it, is not nearly as terrifying as making that leap in my own experience. And so when I started taking that leap, it really didn't take very long for me to come to a place of deep inner stillness and deep inner peace, and really recognizing the power that I hold within myself and the beauty of myself. It was the first step in me coming back to fully loving myself. And once I'm loving myself, the world is going to reflect to me what I believe about myself. So if I'm fully loving myself, the world is going to show me love. People who come into my life are going to be people who show me love. And if I don't see that, I'm going to choose to not have those people become a part of my greater experience. Not that I'm going to judge them for who they are or reject them outright, but when I make choices about who I'm going to spend my time with, who I'm going to choose as my companions, it's going to be people who are going to show me the love that I now know for myself. It's not a cruel thing, it's actually a very loving thing, and it's actually very deceitful, you could say, to bring people into your life that don't really resonate with you, who don't really harmonize with who you are, and pretend that it's okay. It's not fair to either one of you. It's not loving yourself, and it's not loving the other people either, because it's not true and honest. So we can be discerning in our lives and still be loving all the time. It's not that you don't have love and compassion for people. It's that you fully know what you deserve to create in your world that is a mirror of who you are. So the more we move through the vulnerability, allow ourselves to go in and feel our feelings, allow other people to see our feelings, and have tears in front of others, and trust that they're only going to support us, and they're only going to care more about us because we've shown that courage that it takes to really expose ourselves like the blossom. It's only then that we know that we deserve to see in our outer world everything that we now know about who we are in the inner world. We need to be vulnerable to heal the past, because as long as we're wearing our brave face and pretending that everything's okay when it's not, we're still wearing those walls of protection. And not only that, we're living a life of suffering, because the more we resist really going in and feeling what we're feeling, the more we have to pretend that everything's okay when it's not. And so we're hurt all the time by little things without going in and healing what that is. We just continue to be hurt all the time. And so this vulnerability is part of the death rebirth cycle that is so available to us at this time. This is what we're seeing on the earth in the bigger picture, is all this shadow coming to the surface. It's going to be revealing more and more the darkness that we've been trying to override by pretending that everything's okay and avoiding what we're really feeling and fearing expressing what we think about the world and what we're really feeling. It's only when we walk through that fear by being vulnerable that we realize that the only thing we've been defending is fear. It's like we've been holding fear by being in fear, and the only thing that we need to let go of is that fear. And on the other side of that, we can bloom and know that it's safe to expose all that we are and be all that we are in the world. And for those of you who've watched my videos, you've seen me be vulnerable in my videos. I've been moved to tears many times in my videos, and I am now so willing to show that because the reason I move to tears is because I feel so much love. I now feel so much because I realize that by being afraid of fear and being afraid of really feeling my feelings, not only was I protecting myself from the sad feelings and the difficult feelings, I was also keeping myself from the joy and the grace, because when you're blocking feelings, you're blocking all your feelings. And so often in my videos, I'm so touched by love, usually coming from my higher guidance or my friend KB, that I am moved to tears. And it's the most beautiful thing. I absolutely love feeling deeply in this world. And the more of my shadow self that gets released, the more of my light that comes forward, the more that I allow myself to blossom in the world, the more I feel the beautiful love and grace of what it is to be here. So it's for that reason that I wanted to bring forward some light language to support us in allowing ourselves to move into that state of vulnerability, and knowing that there's no shame in that. It's actually the most courageous thing you can do. And every one of us who allows that and steps into it, we are making it okay for others to do the same. There is so much pain and suffering in this world because we feel like we need to meet some standard that doesn't match who we are. It's ridiculous, really, when you think of it, to think that there's one standard of beauty, one standard of fashion, one way we're supposed to look when all of us are so uniquely different. It's time for us to find the beauty in the uniqueness of each person. It's time for us to find the beauty in our differences and really be able to look into someone's eyes and someone's heart and want to know who they are at the core and allow them to express freely the truth of who they are without any fear of judgment. And it's time for us to offer that to ourselves, knowing that no one can judge us unless we're judging ourselves. And as we step through this and allow ourselves to be vulnerable and feel all of our feelings, then we come to learn that everything in here is perfection. And the more we heal, the easier it becomes to feel the deep love of our true inner light and be like this pure white blossom that is on the screen right now, just radiating into the world the truth of who we are. So I'm calling upon the ancient ones now to be present, to bring through light language to support us in this, and then we'll see if anything else wants to come out on the other side of that. I'm deeply grateful for this opportunity to bring this through. So they're just going to start with a channeled message. Indeed, beloveds, we are with you, witnessing this dialogue, this conversation, one giving and you receiving, being a true listener as you hear this message from this beloved channel. And we say to you, dear ones, it is within each of you to be this beautiful blossom that you are. Imagine a world that is filled with flowers everywhere you look. Imagine looking into someone's heart and discovering what kind of flower they are. Imagine looking at someone and wanting to offer them the greatest loving support for all that they are, so that they may feel safe in the world, that they may feel seen in the world and loved for who they are seen as, loved for the truth of who they are. Imagine a world where everyone is ready to support the other, knowing that each person that they see deep inside, deep inside, if you don't see it on the surface, go in, and know that deep inside each of you is a blessed, sacred light, wanting only to be loved. All the lost souls, all those who are acting out from pain and hurt and suffering, all they want is to be loved. It is love that will heal your world. This has been said many times. It cannot be said enough. What we would like is for you to really hear it. It is love that will heal your own wounds, and it begins with love of the self. Do not let others tell you that you are ever selfish or don't deserve to be loved. Everyone deserves to be loved. It doesn't matter what you have done, dear one. Perhaps you've done things that you are ashamed of. Forgive yourself. Be gentle with yourself. You have been living in the densest reality in existence, you could say. Fallen so deeply, this earth, into this 3D existence. It is time for forgiveness, because you have had the courage to come to this world and live in this density and do all that you can to find your way back to your heart. So please be kind and gentle with yourselves if you have made mistakes or done things that you wish you hadn't done. You are living in a very dense reality, and yet now is the time to move out of that. Now is the time where you must make the choice to step out of that. It will no longer be done for you. It must be your choice to make this move. And part of this choice is having the courage to lift the shadows, to lift the darkness, to lift the veil that has been placed over you. And that begins by being honest with yourself about what you're feeling, to recognize the patterns that you use to put up the walls, to pretend that everything's okay. It's time to stop pretending, to be honest, to see what's really there, and to love it free. To love it free by witnessing it. Find your way into it. Every time something upsets you or bothers you, ask yourself what it is. Don't blame it on someone else, because others are only a mirror for what's truly going on within you. You have created every person in your existence to be a gift to you, to be a gift of the mirror that shows you what's really going on within you. So if someone is irritating you or making you angry, if they are hurting you emotionally, ask yourself, why have I chosen to feel this right now? What is it within me that this person is reflecting that is so painful within me that it's time for me to see? Go in and find the source of that hurt and that pain. Allow it to come up to be witnessed. And once it is witnessed, the greatest part of the work is done, beloveds. And so, having offered that, we leave you now with this light language to transform and transmute. So we are going to ask the Ancient Ones as they speak through this channel to have the intention of transforming and transmuting all the patterns that have you feeling it like you need to be protected, and therefore have this fear of being vulnerable because there is something that must be protected. Once you know that it is safe to be the truth of you, it is much easier then to go in and witness that which is wanting to be released, and to allow that process to happen, to allow the rebirthing to happen so that you can come back into the fullness of you. So we thank you for receiving this message, and thank this channel for this opportunity to speak through her to you in the love and light of all that is. Okay, and thanks to the beautiful beings of light who have spoken. And they're saying we are the Council of Nine in service to all light and in service to humanity and love. Okay, and now for the light language. Awaklaha imaka achka ikna akwa emaka. Uktakaha mika ichkna. Ilakachka ikna a. Uktakaha wakiklakna. Ikla akta ikna a. Uchka apnika akila. Waklika Hamika Ichka. Inatika. 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 Ulawaione. Iawane kate. Utakayo iala. Ichkana amake iktka atwa. Utakahamika ichkana atwa. Utakahamaka ilatna. Owachka he miktaka a olaka ataka e. Omakai a iala tikana ataka e tika at. Ibka ai chika alawa e. Owakataka. Imka alawa e chikana amika atwa e. O tikahai ichkana atwa e. Maktika halawa e kana. Iktaka ichkana a iktaka atwa e lina. Umaka atwa chu. Ikakana ichki ilawa a. O tikahai I na maktika ichka awala e mika. E mika iktaka olewacha. I was seeing first, they were clearing and reprogramming and removing deep, dark programs that were placed within us. And once those were removed, I saw them anchoring in the light, and the light was being anchored into the perineum, where there is a core cell that never changes. It's like our link to the divine, our link to the love and light of all that is. And they were anchoring a love light energy into that core cell, and then awakening that blossoming potential within us. So I'll see if there's anything more they want to bring through. And so much thanks to you for being present with this. Waklehe ni kana atwa ich kana atwa e. Miktakahawa kikla atna e. Otkahachkwa ikala a. Iktaka atwa ichka. Imaktakaha wika latka achkana atwe. Utka atwa ikna atwa ichkana atwa sh. Aliwa e makita akwane. O ka achki I kakna. Maktaka I la untkana a. Ichka awa e o ilna. Imaka awa e ikshna awa. Miktaka hawa ikna a. Otika ha ikla achkana awa e tika awa e. Utka ha wiktaka achkana awa. Imaka awa e. Otka awa e na. Ikla awa e kchka. Iktaka awa ichkana a. Iktaka ha tikna a. Ichka. Maktaka hawa e. Okay, that was about clearing any interference to us integrating this beautiful light language and are deserving of it, so that any interference would be released from this whatsoever. And you know, that feels like serious work. And I got the feeling that as much as it's important to be loving and kind, it's also very important for us to be very strong and firm, expressing our will in what we deserve. We deserve to be the beautiful blossom of light that we are. We deserve to be free to grow into our empowered state of being. We deserve to claim back the divinity of the original creation of humanity. And that's what they were anchoring in. So I thank you for being present with me. I invite you to use this light language several times so that we can anchor in this deep energy of healing and knowing and expressing the fullness of who we are in our state of empowerment as humanity awakening in this beautiful evolution of time to the full potential of who we are. And I thank you so deeply for being present here with me, for supporting the growth and expansion of this light that we are. We'll do it together. And the more of us who connect with this work and this light and who are willing to be courageous and step into our truth, the more we will be spreading the light for those who are following behind us, making it easier for everyone, and also claiming back our beautiful right as humans to be free and loving and creative and powerful. So much love to you all.